Okay. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Is everybody hearing me? Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to this impromptu-esque live stream. So it's my second time doing a live stream on YouTube. So I'm still a bit of a newbie with it. If there are any special features that I should be using that I'm not using, guys, please feel free to prips me and let me know. I'm open for the learning, but I want to thank everybody for making the time to join me for what I hope will become the new home of our videos for Good Gas Mondays. So if you are a member of my online community, particularly in the Instagram space, then you're very familiar with Good Gas Mondays. You know that is where I began my foray into sharing perspectives on my life, on my relationships, the lessons that I'm getting as I'm going through each day. And that created a very strong and vibrant community. We called it Good Gas Mondays because I would do it on my way into the office. So I would stop in the parking lot. At that time, I was working at 9 to 5. I'd stop in the parking lot and I would just spend about 15, 20 minutes just sharing a reflection, gassing up the audience with some good energy and perspectives. So it has grown from there, and we want to bring that onto YouTube now. So it's the official announcement that moving forward, we're going to be having our Good Gas Mondays reflections, video conversations on a Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Right here on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed as yet, now is a very good time to do that. So you will get the notification, set the notification, by the way, by clicking the bell option. So I'm just figuring out that you can subscribe and still not get notifications if you don't also opt for that feature, which is the bell on the page. So be sure to do that so you can get the notifications when we're going live, when we've put up something in the community on YouTube, and we may want a bit of feedback from you or a poll. We're going to be using that poll feature moving forward. So giving you a heads up that a lot more activity is going to be happening here on YouTube. And I'm hoping that you will join us over here. And if this is your first time that you're enjoying it, if you're a YouTube staple, a YouTube tete, I'm looking forward to my grand welcome, right? Because I'm fairly new to the YouTube community space. So thanking you again for joining me, and let's just jump right into it. And if you have questions, please make use of the comment bar. If there's anything that I say, use up the comment thread and tell me what resonates with you. If you've had that experience, if you're living that example, if you have an opposing view on the example or the perspective, put it in the comments. I am going to keep that comment when I post the video to my YouTube page. That comment feature is still going to be there because I intend to go back and see what possible topics, what possible conversation areas we want to dive deeper into as we're continuing. So let's jump right into it. The big question that we're answering in this section or this episode of Good Gas Mondays is, how do I know if it's true love? Now, that is a big question. Big because everybody's asking it. It's a big, loud question. We want love. We want true love. We want to get it and we want to give it. But how can we bring life to something that we really cannot define? We don't know what it means. We don't understand the parameters of it. We don't know when it is in bounds and outer bounds. But we all want it. Yes, collectively we agree that love is a good thing and we need it. But what is love? And how much time have we spent to define it properly so that we know, first and foremost, if we are any good at loving ourselves? Because that is where the conundrum starts. We lack love and we're going into the world looking for it in our job, looking for it in status and privilege, looking for it in money, looking for it in the husband or the wife, looking for it on social media. We don't have it. We're not giving it to ourselves, but we are very committed to going out there and finding true love. That, I think, is the first conundrum and the one that we have to solve in a very decisive way as we continue on this path to seek and to find love. Can you be looking for love without loving yourself? Absolutely. Can you learn to love yourself while you're figuring out what you want from another partner? Yes. But I find it to be so much healthier when we clean up ourselves and clarify what we're doing for me, how I am loving me before I go out there and make demands on other people for them to love me in a particular way. And we do our partners an injustice when we don't even know what it means to love ourselves, but we come running into the relationship with demands and needs from people who are also trying to figure out how to love themselves, trying to figure out how to love you, but you don't even understand what it means to love you. And so it feels a little tempestuous. Like, what are we doing here? You know, you say this is a principle, you say this is a value, but you only have it here, so you don't have it there. So you say you want this, but you're not giving it. You say you want love, but you're not opening up. So people really are out there looking for love, saying they want it, don't know what it means to have it. And so even when you meet somebody who's actually trying to love you, you can't receive that because you don't know what you're looking for and you haven't created a space spiritually or emotionally to receive that. So that's the first reason we have to figure out what is this love thing that we're going after. And then secondly, it feeds into the next, our ability to love others. And conversely, knowing what we're going to receive from them as love. So how do you know if you have love? Quick background, I did 2 videos that got a lot of feedback, comments, reshares, reposts. The first was how to know if your relationship is bad for your mental health. And I outlined about five steps or 5 markers that tell you you're losing your mind in your relationship. It's mentally unhealthy for you. And then coming off of that video, I did another video on how to know when it's time to break up. Like, what signs do you look for? And that video as well, tons of feedback. Coming out of those 2, I ended up getting direct messages from persons in my community asking for relationship advice. Now, I cannot give relationship advice. I do not know, one, who you are and who you're in a relationship with, but most importantly, I'm not trained to do that. And I'm actually not trying to do that even in these videos. It's really just sharing what I have experienced and what I've learned from it. And I think the best way for me to answer some of those questions that people have, asking me to give them advice on their relationship, is with this video. Beginning first with an understanding of what it means to love yourself, and then to step into the world making decisions, including in your intimate relationships, that back up this fact, back up this belief, back up this thing you're saying all over your Instagram posts about self-love. Back it up when you go out into the world to engage those people. So this is my answer. If you sent me a DM, especially around relationship advice, sharing your own relationship perspective, asking me to cover a particular topic or give you my input on a specific intimate issue, this is the best response I can give you. Any kind of feedback I give has to be couched in this question of, do you love yourself? And so how do we know that? That's what we're going to explore in the video, in the live this evening. So right now, how we're defining love, I find 3 problematic definitions in our culture. Tell me in the comments if you have others or if these are problematic for you as well. The first problematic definition for me, and it's something that I touched on in a previous video, is this ride or die love. And we call it a forever love or an unconditional love. And there's nothing wrong with those phrasings, right? But when we phrase it that way, unconditional love, we've wrapped into it a ride or die thinking, where no matter what, even if you treat me bad, even if you abandon me, even if I treat you bad, even if I abandon you, even if I am not trustworthy and I don't live up to my word, the fact that you said you would love me forever, you can't go. You can't grow outside of this love relationship that we have. So if it is true love, it has to be a forever love. And wrapped up in that expectation of forever is, even if it's toxic, even if it's bad. In fact, the harder it is and the more painful it is the more you know that you got real love on your hands. Very problematic for me. It's the kind of love definition that came up when I was a child in Bold and the Beautiful. Because why Ridge can't just no say, Iman Taylor can't there. You understand what I mean? Like, how much pain do you have to go through to recognize that this woman does not love you? Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless. Like those kinds of toxic, painful, hard, inconsistent, low vibration relationships. Those are the ones that we were taught to think are true love, and it just don't dead. Like there was one, I think it was Days of Our Lives. I want to say Stefano. Somebody was just always a dead, and no matter how them dead, them just come back. Like that is how the love was portrayed in those soap operas. was. So the love dies. The love dies because of a breach of trust. The love dies because of abuse. The love dies because of dishonesty. The love dies because there's no affection. All of these reasons the love dies. But then it's resurrected because, it can't really die. It must always be there because it's forever. I find that problematic. You can drop in the comments if you have a similar perspective or you've had a similar experience with those particular relationships. I've seen some comments already. Prashana says, talk the truth, Ridge and Taylor, toxic. Absolutely. And that was like celebrated in culture. And if think about your favorite romance novels, your favorite romantic movies, how they, collapsed at the end. What was the gist of the story? Wait long and fight hard. And, I'm not saying there should be no fight and effort in love, but I find it problematic that it's always defined as that kind of, I'm here forever, beat me, kill me, kick me down, I'm not leaving. Problematic for me. The other definition of love is this concept that we're falling into love. So the phrasing, when you talk about meeting somebody and boy, we just clicked and there was something about him, there was something about her. I just can't explain it. We just got each other immediately and we just clicked and it's like we just fell in love. I find that problematic as well because I think, and I'm sure that love has to be a choice. Even if you look at a biblical definition, and the Bible gives you a lot of leeway around forgiveness and compassion and all of that. But even how love is defined in the Bible, in biblical text, and if you have another religious text that you can share, feel free to. It is patient, it is kind, it is long-suffering. Patience is not something that you fall into. You don't fall into patience with somebody. You don't fall into kindness with somebody. These are choices that you have to make. So when I hear people talking about falling in love, just the concept that you book it to and drop in it and you can't explain it. And they'll tell you, I don't know what it is about her. I don't know what it is about him. We just click like something just happened and it was just like magic. Going again into these fairy tale reflections and manifestations of love, the kind of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs where the prince must come and kiss you. Like, where does prince come from? What are the prince's ethics? What are the prince's morals? Does the prince brush his teeth? Like, what do you mean I'm lying down here waiting on a prince to just come and kiss me? Like any old prince, like as long as he just have royal bloodline, he's gonna just kiss me, I'm gonna just fall in love forever. Problematic, right? And it's always the woman who's doing the falling in love, right? So the man displays all the chivalry and him go through all the hardships and jump over every fence and every barrier, and he reaches her and she's seen for the first time, and then it's just magic, and then we just fall. Why it's problematic for me, is not just that it's unrealistic and it's playing against a fairy tale, but what it's telling you is that you don't have consciousness when you are in love. You are allowed to be led by the raw feeling of it. So when it feel like love, you stay in it, and when it don't feel like love, you come out of it, because if you can fall in, you can fall out. So it's not just that you're not choosing to do it, but you're saying, I will be unconscious when I'm thinking about love. So if it feels good, if there's something that still feels magical about it, if I still feel something in my body, the fact that I can't explain what I'm feeling is fine, because that's how love goes. I've fallen into it and know I'm here and I'm here to stay. And the third problematic definition for me when it comes on to love is how we describe sex. In polite company, we call it making love. How have we conflated sexual contact with love making? Because we believe that that's the highest touch point. So after you have come into a space of love with somebody, sexual contact is supposed to represent, the union, the coming together as one. But we know in our culture that we've gotten very liberal with the steps to be taken before sex, right? So back in the day when it was marriage before sex, you could understand why they're calling it making love. Because maybe me never know you well enough, but we're married now and we're not gonna left, because the last time if me left you, them are gonna kill me. So as we make this kind of higher order, symbolic, physical, intimate contact, we are making love because we're getting to know each other on a deeper level every night, every week, every whatever. We're not gonna left each other. We're gonna there. So maybe in this expression of affection, we will deepen our love, right? But we're taking a few steps before that to lock in some critical components of love, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. So by the time we get to sex, certain bases are covered, like a clear commitment, right? Because marriage and doing that expression of the vows in front of friends and family is meant to express commitment and to lock you in person. I am there for them. I have their back no matter what. I'm with them. So we're expressing commitment and a few other things, the affection that would have gone into it, and all of that before we get to the marriage bed. So I could give a little leeway in and them time there if that is where we're calling sex making love, because a few other things would have had to happen first. But in a demi time here, these ear times, that's not how it works. Like sexual contact has nothing to do with love anymore. The way we talk about sex in music, the way we represent sex in movies, the way we use sex in advertising to sell shoes and socks and toothpaste, there's nothing about sex that communicates that we are making love. But that for me just further highlights and represents that we don't know what love is. If sexual organs making contact with each other is what we call the creation of love, we don't really know what love is. And then Google it. If you go Google love now, Google tells you that love is an intense feeling of deep affection, feeling, chemical, right? Just chemical around the part of their body, feeling of deep affection. What that mean? The second definition was a great interest and pleasure in something. I love you. I take a great interest and pleasure in you. But it's just not sufficient, right? It's not sufficient. But these are the definitions that culturally we are raised in. So you end up saying, I love you to your cat because great interest and pleasure in it. You end up loving your car because an intense feeling of deep affection. You end up loving food because you take a great interest and pleasure in it. You love your political party, you love your money, you love your house, you love your spouse, you love your mother, you love your children, you love the shoes where you just buy. Love is just the one word that is to express the relationship that we have with things that stoke deep affection, interest, and pleasure. Not sufficient. And I'm going to walk you through why I find it to be insufficient and what a better and more sufficient descriptor of love has been for me. And it's really been working. Working to the point where when I say things like I'm practicing self-love, I know the key elements of what I'm doing to make it self-love and not just. I redefined what loving myself means. When I tell somebody I love them, whether it's a friend, an intimate partner, a family member, when I say I love you, there's so much in it now because I know exactly what I'm saying and I know exactly what I'm expecting of them when I receive and believe that they love me. So I'm gonna pause for 1 second, not more than 30 seconds. I notice I'm getting a notification here on battery, and I thought my laptop was fully charged up. So give me 30 seconds because once me get in and this, me not getting up back. All right. I'm back with you. Let me know if you're still hearing me. Just doing a quick audio check because I had muted just now. So yeah, if we boil love down to a feeling, it means that as long as you feel affection, you feel arousal, you feel attraction, then there is love. And you and I know that that's not how love works. It becomes even more dangerous because then we're starting to ask questions. When the attraction fades, is it that I don't love the person anymore? Or if I only have affection from them, is that love? because I feel all the feelings with them. So does that mean I have love? If you say yes to that, somewhere inside of you, you know it can't be true. But many times we're saying yes to those relationships. So what's my definition of love, and how has it been working for me? My definition of love is actually a definition that emerged for me while I was doing some reading. If you follow me, you know I have an annual book list, and one of the books on my list, deliberately chosen because I knew that this was my season for opening up my heart, and I was looking for books that helped me to do that. One of them was All About Love by Bell Hooks, and in her book she used a definition by Fromm. I'll tell you his full name in a second. But she used that definition that allowed me to start doing some reflection on what love means for me. And I realized that I didn't have a deep enough understanding of it. And I also wasn't committed to finding it out because a part of me thought I already knew, right? So I wasn't even looking. I thought I knew what love was. So even while I was reading the book, I'm like, I think I know this. But a definition came up for me, and I'm sharing it with you because it broke down the elements and the parts, the core components, the organs of love that I'm really standing by in this season. Like, I'm not taking no chat on it. And it's helped to clarify even where my soul and my spirit was, but I didn't have the words for it. So while I knew I was looking for certain things, I never had the word, because love meant all of these things. I couldn't find the actual word that I was looking for to describe what I was doing, what I had, what I was looking for. So the acronym I use here is CART, CCARRT. So let's use that to remember the components, the elements, the ingredients of love. So if we're going to make love, these are the ingredients that I believe have to be there. These are the 6 ingredients to make good love, as far as I'm concerned. Because after everything I've read, done, spoken about, this is the one that resonates most with me and ties into where I am on my journey. The first one is care. We're not making love if there is no care in the pot. Care is an essential seasoning, like salt is needed for the pot, like sugar, if that's how you cook, like coconut milk, if that's how you cook, because there's some people like coconut milk has to be in everything. Care is an essential component. What is care? Being in a relationship, and I'm going to locate this for now with intimate relationships, but this definition can go broader to every kind of relationship. But just so I don't spend the whole night on here, I'm going to use one set of examples. Being in a relationship with someone who shows that they are concerned about your well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, and even your financial well-being. They care about you. Now, sometimes we're in relationships with people who are very affectionate. When you come around them have the softest touch, the tenderest kisses, the affection and the emotion and the chemicals that run through your body intense enough, it blind you, it drunk you off, you drop asleep, lose consciousness, because it just feels good to be around them. Once you're around them, you feel like the most important person in the room. And when them don't touch and pamper and all kind of something with your body, it has to be love, because nobody has ever done this before. But they don't care about you. When you're not there, you are not a thought, much less to be a second thought. They don't check in. If they check in, it's as a precursor to a link up so that more affection can go on. But there is no care. If they don't hear from you for a week, there's no concern. Like, what is going on? Let me pop up to your house and check if everything is okay. Let me make myself available to talk to you for 2-3 hours on the phone if I have to. Let me bring you food, because I realize that you say you've been working a lot and you're not catching lunch on time and you're getting a headache or a belly ache, right? They're expressing no care. Raw Food Challenge JA says no thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is an expression of care. So if you deal with somebody, right, and you have the greatest time when you enter the ramping shop, but as soon as you come out of that ramping shop, no message, no call, no text, and whatever message, call, or text comes in is about preparing for the next appointment inside the ramping shop, right? It's about you helping them with a problem, but never them probing to see how they can show up for you. And sometimes they will tell you that it's because you don't share, so they don't want to pry. But if we're going to call it love, because we move from the stage now of like, right? If you just like me and you're interested in me and we're dating, then you can say I don't share. But if now I'm telling you I love you and you are telling me you love me, you have to show a deeper interest in me. And that means expressing care. Now, let me ease this one in, right? When we talk about self-care, it's the same thing we're talking about. You can say you're practicing self-care and care for yourself, and you're not taking care of your emotional needs. What kind of self-care is that? You're not taking care of your physical needs. You're supposed to get up and exercise. Can't tell the last time you bust a sweat when it wasn't running up the stairs because you did leave something behind and couldn't wait for the elevator to come back down. Looking at your plate and what you're putting in your body, that's not you taking physical care of yourself. Denying yourself rest and rejuvenation, that is not you taking good physical care of yourself. Emotional, or moving from emotional, financial self-care, not taking care of your money. So when we talk about self-care, and I hinted at it earlier, it's not just going to get a massage, But if you're not taking care of yourself, it is very unfair of you to expect somebody to come and take care of you. If you don't demonstrate love, for which an ingredient is care, don't get vexed when other people not demonstrating love, because they're only going to give you as good as you are giving yourself. Even if them come in loving you more than you love yourself, after a while, they realize that you are okay with 1 and 2, but you don't need 4, 5, and 6. And that's why you have to be careful how you're loving yourself before you step into some of these relationships. Yeah? So care is essential. A red flag for me when it comes on to care, how I know that I'm not in a loving relationship, I'll share one red flag for each of the ingredients. When the person don't make any effort to help me, or the effort to help me is lackluster, like you have to run it down, you have to beg it, you have to harass it, you have to quarrel feet. They see that you need help with something and they don't offer. Remember, we reach love now, we don't reach like, we reach love. They're not offering to help. And maybe they can't read in the situation to see that you need help. You have clearly articulated that you have a need, and their response to that need is almost as if you're bothering them. It's almost as if they're saying, when we get a chance for me, look on it. You're not a priority right now. And it's okay to not be a priority 1 time or 2 time or 3 time, but to never be the priority, for me, is a red flag that this person does not care about me. And if you don't care about me, you cannot say you love me. I'm sorry. You can't say love me. If you don't care about me, you can't say love me. Call it something else, but you cannot call it love. Say you have affection towards me. Say you are attracted to me, but don't call it love, because if you don't care about me, you can't love me. The second thing I'm looking for is commitment. Now, commitment, I do a lot of work in terms of productivity. So commitment for me is a definition that straddles both personal, emotional issues and also the question of. So when I say I'm committed to a fitness lifestyle, the price I'm willing to pay for extraordinary results will show up in my level of commitment. If I don't want to pay no price, I'm not committed. But if I'm willing to pay the highest possible price, getting up, working out twice a day, I do a morning session, I do an evening session. When you look at my plate, all I'm having is protein shakes and lean meat and whatever. You can tell the price I'm willing to pay for extraordinary results. And that is how you're able to measure my level of commitment. Another way to look at commitment, somebody gives you a job. If you are committed to the job, the way you show up for the job tells your employer your level of commitment. It tells all the other employees how committed you are. You ever see somebody else committed to them job? Committed, them coming early, them work and done for them work and go look for or them can help other people work, them leave late, them volunteer to help with everything, they're upskilling because they see a post in the company and they really want to help the company grow. Committed to their jobs. If the deadline is Monday, they're sending it in from the Thursday before. If you ask them for 3 solutions and 3 ideas, they're giving you 33. They're showing up to every meeting on time. They're offering to help you build out a project or a campaign. I mean, commitment. So if it's important to you, your level of commitment is going to show. I'm seeing a note here that I'm freezing. Let me know if you're hearing me still and if you're seeing me still. I see a note here from Kenzie. I see it, Kenzie. So I'll tackle that tomorrow. I'll tackle it tomorrow. I just seen the message. I'm not sure the one that was retracted, but I seen the one about email. So I'm assuming it's the Success Farm email. So I'm on it for you tomorrow. Okay, and I'm seeing that I'm not freezing. But commitment has a look, commitment has a feel, commitment has an energy. Now, some of us know what commitment looks like, even in the relationship that we're in now, because in the early stages, when it was still warm and fuzzy, you know what the commitment was. Them I talk to the minute them off the clock, and you and them up on the phone and the talk from them leave work till them drive go home. And when them in the bathroom, I bathe, I brush them teeth, them phone up on speaker, them on FaceTime. And when they drop asleep together up on the phone, and wake up to each other up on the phone, and I just committed to deepening the understanding between the two of you. So you know what commitment looks like. When it goes away, don't pretend like you don't realize that the commitment and the level and the price they're willing to pay to get extraordinary results in the relationship has floundered. Don't allow yourself to believe that because you're outside of the honeymoon phase, then all of the niceness have to stop. That's not true. There are ways to show commitment, even if you don't have as much time as you used to have in the beginning. So what that means is, and there are different levels of commitment. In fact, I think I'll do a video on the different stages of commitment. The lowest level of commitment is interest. So at that lower level, when people are interested in you, they show a lot of commitment, which is talking to you a lot, always on the phone, ready to go. That's actually the lowest level of commitment. They're interested in you and they're interested in getting to know you. But they put a lot of energy in at the front. But that's the only layer of commitment that they're really interested in. After they have learned a little bit about you, they've made a decision whether or not they want to commit. And whether you admit it or not, the fact that you're still in a relationship with them or still having a friends with benefits arrangement with them, they are not committed to you unless they are moving from that lower level of interest to higher levels. And the peak level of commitment is innovation, where they are getting creative to show you how committed they are. An example. In the beginning, you guys used to talk hours on the phone. No, it is no longer possible. No, when I pretty much talked out, I want to have a nice like a reading between the two. No, when you can have like a 5-minute conversation and get out of it, what it would have taken 5 hours to do, right? So the same talking is not going to happen, but they're still committed to you, and they're still committed to being open, honest, and expressive about that commitment. So what it looks like: commemorating birthdays, putting effort into commemorating the day that you were born. So when I hear people make excuses about their spouse or their partner or whoever they are in a relationship with or loving, doing nothing to commemorate the day you were born. Worse, if you're the kind of person who goes all out for the day that they are born or for the day that other people in your close circle are born. And so they see that you take birthdays seriously. It's just that they're not committed. They're not at the level yet where they want to innovate to show you how much they are committed to you. So they're at the lowest level of commitment and probably don't intend to move from there. So you have to know if you're willing to accept the lowest form of commitment. But in your relationship, that commitment will grow from stage to stage, stage to stage. Somebody says, that's my sister and her husband. So even after marriage, they're still on the phone day and night, right? There is a level of commitment there. And so when you find people getting creative and innovative about how they're showing you commitment, it's sometimes an expression of them reaching the highest level and the highest form because they don't want it to get boring. You hear people talk about, keeping it spicy, keeping it interesting, keeping it engaging. That is their way of demonstrating commitment to you. No, don't be fooled. You can have commitment and still not have love because there are other things that have to be in the pot, but commitment is another ingredient. And we want it in there because we want to know that somebody's willing to go the extra mile to show up for us, that when they set an appointment with us, they're going to make time in their calendar to see us. When we're sitting down and we're talking to each other, their phone is put down and I have their full focus. When I need a listening ear, I know they're committed to hearing, understanding, giving me feedback, giving me support, standing beside me, helping me to figure out a problem. That is also a display of commitment. Date nights are a display of commitment. Date days, date weekends, these are also ways to express commitment. So it don't have to be a gift and it don't have to be anything flamboyant and extravagant, but it's the person demonstrating to you that the most valuable thing they have, which is their time and their attention, they're willing to commit that to you. within reason, because people have to go work and people have to sleep and people have other relationships that they also want to nourish with their family members, with their friends, with their children. But the most valuable thing that they have, their time and their focus or attention, they're pouring that in your direction as well. If you not get that, me can't call that love. If me not get that, can't talk about nobody else. But if me not getting that, I cannot call it love. Because the lack of commitment does not finish up the recipe for me. The other element, and one of the ways that I promise to share a red flag with each of the ingredients, one red flag for me, how I know if somebody is not committed, is that there is no risk. For them, it don't cost them anything to be in the relationship. Just bear reward, 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 reward. Or the expectation of sacrifice, the expectation of compromise is lopsided on one way. So I am the person that expected to always meet them 3/4 way. Matter of fact, meet them the whole mile because they're not even meeting me a quarter of the mile. If there's to be a compromise on principle, what we want to eat, where we want to go, what we're gonna wear, where we're gonna live, when we're gonna move in together, when we're gonna get married, when we're gonna have children, anything at all, any decision, from small decision to big decision, it rests in their lap and their lap only. So it's only what them want on their terms. There's no give and take, but a take and take. There is also that for me is evidence that they're not ready to commit. Because what they're saying is, I want to stay over here where I am, and I want you to come over here. I don't want to risk nothing. I don't want to lose nothing. I don't want to change my position. So you're either going to come over here and stand up with me, or it's not going to work at all. There's no commitment to me. Because if there was a commitment to me, you'd be trying to figure out in the same way I am figuring out, as I am expressing my commitment to you, or to meet you where you are, you would be trying to figure out how to meet me as well. So if any page of it depend on be your page, or it can't read, for me, that's a red flag that there is no commitment to me or to our relationship, but you're still committed to you and yourself. And probably just not ready to be in a relationship, and that's fine. Don't make them a bad person. But I have to know what ingredients I'm looking for in my love stew, in my love pot. Care and commitment being the first two. The second ingredient I'm looking for is affection. Affection is the expression now of that feeling of closeness. So whether it is with our words, the way we speak to each other, the affectionate names that we're calling each other, affectionate references. The affection can also be in physical touch. So how we are having physical contact with each other, that is also an expression. And the action that that person is taking can also be an expression of affection. So gift giving, for example, showing up with a surprise at the end of a hard day, taking on some activity, some chore, some task that I would naturally do, but you show me as an act of love, affection by showing up for me in that way. So depending on what your love language is, words of affection are or affirmation could be the highest form of affection for you. Acts of service can be the highest form of affection for you. Gift giving can be the highest form of affection for you. You have to know what your love language is, because affection will look and feel different for each of us depending on the love language that we best receive love in. For me, words of affirmation is my primary love language. Depending on the season I'm in, my secondary love language will fluctuate. But most times it's acts of service. So because my calendar, my schedule, my load is so heavy, how I hear and receive love, one, words of affirmation, because I'm a communicator by heart. And so it's if you want me to understand something, you have to figure out how to say it properly to me, right? Don't leave me context clues. Just come out and say it to me. But not everybody is able to do that. So I will take a little bit of word of affirmation and back that up with acts of service. So based on the things that I have to do in a day, the things that overwhelm me, the things that take a lot of my time and my focus, one of the ways that I receive love or receive it loudest is to have a partner who shares in those tasks with me or shows up, spontaneously to help me with something or to do something just to ease my burden or to show appreciation for me. But I know my love language, right? And I know what affection is to me. No, it can be words, as I said, it can be actions, and it can be physical contact. A red flag for me when it comes down to affection, how I know that it's not there, is when my partner is unsupportive during hardships or difficult times. So they make it about themselves. I can depend on them to show up. and know I have to figure it all out by myself. So when that is happening, I can realize in that way that's a big red flag for me. Because affection, as I said, one of the ways that I hear the love is through acts of service. So if in my hard moments I need help, but you can never ever, again, we're not talking about the 1 and 2 time, the 3 and 4 time where it's just not possible for your intimate partner to show up for you. That's talk about just never. Just never. If you have them cannot be an emergency contact. That's essentially what I mean. Right? Them can't be emergency. You cannot have no emergency and call them. Your mother, your sister, your cousin, and your best friend from high school are still your emergency contact. But we're out here saying, I love this person loves me. For me, that is a red flag. If I can't add you as an emergency contact and I'm out here talking about we are in love with each other, we'll have a problem. We'll have a problem, because that goes to another element of the ingredients, which we'll touch on later, which is trust, right? I can't depend on you to show up and to have my back. But yeah, so that's affection. The other ingredient for me is respect. Respecting me, respecting my boundaries, respecting my opinions, respecting my right to choose, respecting my physical integrity, my bodily integrity. So I'm always very clear that I'm not looking for a child as a partner. I'm not looking for somebody who needs to take care of them, right? I'm looking for somebody who I can respect them as an adult, respect them as a mature man. In the same way, I'm looking for somebody who I can respect in that way. I'm expecting that level of respect as well. Me, I'm going to treat you as a man. You are going to treat me as a woman. Respect. You have a voice. You have value. You have a mind of your own. You have a right to say yes. You have a right to say no. I'm going to respect that. I'm expecting that respect to also run on my side of the street. So how I know we have a red flag and a problem is when there's verbal abuse. When you can open your mouth and tell me some dirty things, it means that you do not respect me. And yes, you can say, boy, I was just in the heat of it. It was just in the moment of it. But life have a lot of heats and a lot of moments. Yeah, it's like Olympics. Eat 1, eat 2, eat 3. Bare heat's coming. So if you can manage heat 1 and it's heat's going to trigger you, we'll have a problem, because many, many, many more heats are going to come. So it means that I can't in the kitchen with you. I can't trust you. Because as it gets hot, you're going to want to style me? No, man. Mm-mm. So not even that me don't take lightly. And I say this knowing too the background that I come from, right? Because a lot of us choose partners in a way that reflects what we had or did not have in childhood. So if your father, who you establish in your mind, loved you, was able to beat you violently, especially when them did drunk or did have a stressful day, but you accept that your father loved you, you know what you learn? That somebody can love you and beat you. That somebody can love you and disrespect you. If you saw a mother and father get into very vicious verbal arguments, maybe those arguments became physical as well. And at the end of the day, you hear mommy say, but your father loves me same way because, and you hear daddy say, but your mother loves me same way because. You know what you learn? That somebody can love you, or you can love somebody and then beat you and bust up your forehead and broke your hand. That's what you learn. And so you get up and you move into spaces where that is how love is reflected back to you. Because if I saw my father did love me, that is the best form of love I knew. I'm going back to find that. I'm going back to find that because that feels comfortable, it feels safe, it feels like what I know. But sometimes we're also going back to think we can correct it. Like if I go back and find somebody who's like my father, who's like my mother, I can fix them and therefore fix what I did not get from my mother and my father. So I am very aware that the choices, the decisions, the perspectives I have around relationships is informed by how I grew up. So you see, my insistence on words of affirmation as a love language, that is how my mother spoke to me. I knew I was doing a good job. I knew I was loved when my mother opened her mouth and said, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're so great. You're so amazing. Look at my daughter. Proud of my daughter. So that is how I heard love from my mother. But also, one of the ways that I watched my mother set up her parameters for love, she don't want nobody shout off her. So she is not going to be in any kind of relationship with anybody who feel like they must raise their voice and try and cower her down. Before it get any more serious, you just don't say you cannot talk to her again after you raise your voice. And so I grew up watching my mother set that boundary. Like we're not even gonna talk about raise hand. Don't even raise your voice. So I have no tolerance for verbal abuse because my mother did not speak to me in ways that were verbally abusive. And I did not watch my mother in a household being spoken to in verbally abusive ways. So me have a zero tolerance for that. But it's easy for me to have a zero tolerance for that because I have no appetite for it growing up. I'm very aware that if I grew up in a different kind of circumstance, I would be okay with it. My brain would say, well, mommy did love daddy even though daddy do that. So I can love X even though X do that. I can love Y even though Y do that. Y can love me even though them do that. So it's so important for us to be able to key into what we grew up seeing and knowing and how that is informing even now or knowing of love. But respect, big on the meter for me. Me not take disrespect, and me not take it half of the time, and I take it 3/4 of the time. Me don't settle feet. Don't settle feet. It, guys, I can't even go into explaining to you or I cannot manage disrespect. I don't know. I don't have the tolerance for it. And I will forgive you, but I'm not staying because if you disrespect me once, me, no, you can do it, so it means you can't come a second time. Me not put myself in the way if it happen 2 times. And one thing with me, me verbally expressive. Me lay down what I expect, what is a no-go, what's a no-fly zone. So you'd have had to know what doesn't work for me and still cross the line and then come back and apologize. I would be a baboon to still go back and do what it's clear to me that is not respected, right? So no, not me. But that's one of the red flags for me. Verbal abuse and physical abuse are a sign that there is no respect, and nobody can come. You could have come down off the cross after you verbally disrespect me and or physically disrespect me. You cannot convince me thereafter that you love me, because respect is a key ingredient in love. And if it is not there, you don't love me. So say you care about me. Say you are committed to me. Say you have deep affection for me, but you can't tell me say you love me because there is no respect there. And I'm clear on that. The other R is responsibility. Oh, now this one, if I have men's and mans on this one, I gotta talk to them, right? I talk to my ladies all the time, but I relish the opportunity to talk to men about taking responsibility for your behavior in your relationships. And here's why I talk to the mans then. Society tells you that you don't have to. Society tells you that being a man equals bad behavior. And so women are expecting you to just behave poorly. No, when I talk, I'm not talking in extremes that 100% of men behave bad 100% of the time, and 100% of women are out here expecting men to behave bad 100% of the time. I'm talking about what is happening most times. The normal, not the abnormal, the normal. So what are some of the things that women expect from men? And men take up the space to make use of those free cards and lies. One, that the man is going to be unfaithful. Every man cheats, every man give out. That's how we say it in Jamaica. So hearing that your partner has cheated on you, hearing that your partner has slept with Jane, Jill, Jamila, and Janet, well, here nor there, every man is going to cheat. What them say? Man short and woman plenty. Culturally, you are told that you don't have to take responsibility for breaching the trust in your relationship. That's really what it comes down to, a breach of trust. Stop taking it simple. And I want you to understand that unless you are able to take responsibility for your behavior, you can't honestly love anybody, because love requires you to take responsibility for your behavior. We're adults, we're going to make mistakes. The quality of the mistakes must be improving over time to show that you are growing wiser day by day. The quality of your responses when you're caught in a mistake, caught in a lie, caught in an error, caught in a ditch, how you respond, whether it's to turn around and say, well, if you did a come home early, well, if you never worked so hard, well, if you did a cook, well, if you did a wash, well, if you did a this, well, if you never some nagging, then we wouldn't have to. That's you not taking responsibility for your behavior. Doesn't mean that women take responsibility for their behavior all the time, but I know culturally women are held to a higher standard. We are punished and held to stricter rules around our behavior. And so it is much, much harder for us to get away with the things that men get away with. So I'm asking men to join us in the space of accountability, right? And let's take responsibility for the things that we're doing and the things that we're saying, especially around sexual behavior. It leads to a breach of trust. It ultimately leads to a breach of trust in the relationship. And a woman has to know, and if you're a man and this has happened to you, goes both ways too. A man has to know at what point where your standards are, what the bar is that you have set for yourself, so that somebody can disrespect you and you're still trying to love them or trying to convince yourself that they love you. Somebody can be dishonest and breach the trust with you, and you're still trying to convince yourself that they love you or you are going to love them. Somebody refuses to take responsibility for their behavior, and you're over here trying to take responsibility for everything and everybody and calling that love and self-sacrifice and being forgiving. There's a very broad line. It's not a thin line. There's a broad, visible, hard-drawn line in the concrete between forgiveness and allowing people to take it for a fool. So men and women who are on here watching this, please don't skew it, don't get it twisted, don't get it confused. People must be able to take responsibility for their behavior and relationships. It is an expression of respect and it's an expression of care. It builds trust and a level of closeness, knowing that you can trust the person to own up to their behavior and hold themselves accountable. Going back to the point I made about not looking for a child. I'm not looking for anybody to run down and convince them that what they said was inappropriate. I'm not looking for anybody to debate with and quarrel with whole night for them to understand that this behavior is unacceptable. The minute me tell you said this bothers me, and we know that on principle is foolishness, don't make me have to go debate and quarrel. Just own up to the mistake now, because I saw me, I gotta deal with it. And so if I'm in a relationship with somebody where I'm required that level of ownership for self and behavior, I don't do it, they'll be able to call me out very quickly. I'm opening my mouth and calling that as a principle for me. We have to own up to the things that we do. We have to sit down and talk about taking responsibility for yourself and for your behavior. Is being able to openly communicate what's going on. Just pausing for a second. It said it's trying to connect. So I hope everybody's hearing me. Yeah. We have to communicate if we're going to own up to the things that we have done. We have to be in a space for truth telling so we can actually own up to the things that we have done. So it's not that we're not going to make mistakes. It's not that we're not going to have errors. It's not that we won't ever have boo-boos. Things are going to go wrong, But if you're with somebody who truly loves you, that is somebody who is willing to take accountability and responsibility for themselves and their behavior. Oh, I'm seeing the note here that the audio broke up a little bit. Can somebody just type the last thing that you heard me say? Let me see where I need to pick up. But I'm going to start here. I'm assuming this is where things dropped off. If you're in a relationship with somebody who says they love you, it must be somebody, if they really love you, it must be somebody who will own up to their behavior and their mistakes, apologize when they are wrong, clarify if there's a misunderstanding, speak up, sit down and listen to you so that you can speak up. But accountability cannot be missing in a relationship where there is love. So let us go back to childhood. Your mother did something. It was clearly a breach of trust, like reading your diary or taking out a little money to your saving pan. And when you found out about it and you raised it and you said, listen, mommy, why did you do this? Instead of saying, boy, little Sammy, boy, little Susie, I am so sorry. I really should not have taken your money without asking you. That was dishonest, and it really comes close to theft, because if that was to happen to anybody else, anywhere else, that's what we would call it. I made a mistake and I'm so very sorry about that. Can you give me until X time to give you it back? Or this was what I was using the money to do. Are you okay with that? Although I know I'm asking you late, but I'm apologizing again for breaching your trust and whatever. If that is how your parent responded when you realized that they had made a mistake, done something to violate a principle, they were responsible and took accountability for their behavior. You learn to look for that in loving relationships. However, if the response is, oh, what a little pitney, I come bright up themselves. You know, say, me, I take care of you. Me, I take care of you. Me can do anything I want. Your money is my money, because ultimately you would have no money if me never have no money. What you learn is, if somebody loves you, and especially if they're taking care of you, they don't have to take accountability for their behavior. As long as they keep taking care of you, it's okay. And so if you're in a relationship where the partner is bearing most of the financial burden or the care burden in the household, if they don't take responsibility for their behavior, you're willing to sweep that under the rug, right? Because you grew up learning that if somebody don't take accountability for themselves and their behavior, we can still call it love, because my mother loved me and my mother never took accountability for herself. So we can love people who do not take accountability for themselves, or people can love us and not take accountability for their actions. I'm going to say something about our parents at the end of this. I'm going to just sit down tight and hold a deep breath, okay? Responsibility. Now, how do I identify a red flag around responsibility? This one is, I'm not dating anymore, right? So I can share this one because nobody can trick me. But at the time, right? I couldn't share that everybody would have known how to answer these questions. But one of the questions, I won't share all of them, but one of the questions is around their ex. So assuming that I'm not dating somebody who was formerly the Pope and never had any relationships, they must have an ex. You know what I want to know? How did that relationship end? You don't have to give me the details, you don't have to call the name, you don't have to show me the picture of their phone and the screenshot of the message, you don't have to show me that. But what I want to hear is the extent to which you take accountability for the role you played in that relationship deteriorating. Anybody may ask that question and them say, boy, sometimes it's like I can't find the right people in a life, and people just come to take advantage of me, so, and woe is me, and people just always, and you're just the victim and just the victim and just the victim. That tells me that you don't know how to take accountability. Because I've never met the relationship that died because of one person. It takes two. It takes two. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, what was the role you played in creating an environment where that could have happened? What was the role you played in selecting a person who displayed these kinds of characteristics from the beginning? Because you can't convince me to see your eyes and did shut the whole time. You must need to something and know something. So what was your role? And your inability to identify the role that you played in the deterioration of your last relationship tells me that you struggle with accountability. And it also gives me an opportunity to hear how you will talk about your ex. So I shared a video on my Instagram page earlier today, and it was about that same thing. You and the person have broken up, and you're talking about them, and you can't find nothing good to say about them. Everything bad, everything bad, everything bad, everything bad. So what were you doing with them for so long? Are you such a bad judge of character that you saw all the bad and it was good? So I need to hear how you respond to a question like that. What do you have to say about the person that you used to tell, I love you, I love you, I love you? What do you have to say about the person who you used to lie down with at nights? What do you have to say about the person who used to cook your food for you and wash your clothes? What do you have to say about the person who used to take your money and take care of them? What do you have to say about them? Because that also tells me what kind of character you have now that the relationship has ended, what you're choosing to say and share about them. So that's a red flag for me around accountability and taking responsibility for behavior. And the last one is trust. Can I rely on this person? Can I feel safe with them? Can I have confidence that they will not hurt, humiliate, or violate me? If the answer to that is no, you could have cared for me a little more. You could have shown commitment to me a little more. You could have shown affection to me a little more. You could have shown respect to me a little more. You could have taken responsibility for yourself a little more. If I cannot trust that I am safe with you, it can't work. In fact, that question of safety, I think, ties in very, very neatly with respect. Because breaching respect is often a breaching trust. So if you're able to violate my trust, it's also you showing that you don't respect and value that trust. So those things are ingredients that are essential. And a red flag around trust for me is how they honor their word. Like they said they're going to do something, they're going to do something for a friend, a family member, a co-worker, a stranger. If they have a child, they're going to do something for their child. How do they treat their word? They've given somebody their word. They say they're going to do this. They say they're going to do it at this time. And as them come off of the phone, it was like, nah, that's, yeah, I waste my time. That is an indication to me, how you treat your word, how you send it off into the world and then violate your own word. That's an indication that you will also be able to violate the word that you give to me. So can I trust you? So those are little things I look at as red flags. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to date the person or we're not going to get in a relationship if I see a red flag. But you see, because I know the red flags I'm looking for and the pillars under which those red flags come, when I get out the red flags, then I'm going to say, oh, something wrong under here, so something wrong under here, so something wrong under here. So what am I going to do? I can make an informed decision. I am not falling in love, right? It's not going to happen. I'm not going to fall. Not going to fall. There are things that I'm looking for that if I don't see it, there can be no love. You cannot say you love me if you're not showing me any kind of care. You can't say you love me if you're not showing me affection. You can't say you love me if you're not demonstrating commitment. You can't say you love me if you're not showing me respect. If you're not taking responsibility for your behavior. If you can't honor my trust. You can't say you love me. Because wrapped up in that is proof that you don't even love yourself. So how you gonna give me what you don't have for yourself? Almost you want to give me more than you are able to even give to yourself. 3 card game I play in Jamaica. We know the 3 card man very well. Like 3 card trick me, 3 card trick me. Can't trick me. Can't trick me. So let us call it what it is, and we have to start there. So that is how I know if there is true love in a relationship. Those cart principles are there. There's a care, there's a commitment, there's the affection, the responsibility, the respect, and the trust. If that is not there, it's not love we have. So make we call it a situationship. Let us call it an affectionate relationship. Let us call it a caring relationship. Let us call it a respectful relationship. But we're not going to call it love because there's some key ingredients that are missing from the pot. And me never eat that and say it name strawberry. And a strawberry that. It is a fruit. But I'm not going to call it what it is not. And that is not love. That definition was so eye-opening for me. As I say, it changed how I looked at myself. When I say I love myself, am I taking care of myself? Am I giving myself affection? Am I showing a commitment to me? Like when I say I'm going to do these things for myself, for my goals, for my body, for my wellness, for my like, am I doing it? I'm not showing a commitment to myself. So how may I say I love myself? Not showing affection to myself. Or me in a critical talk to myself. So or me I pass a mirror and I give myself a compliment. So me not showing affection to myself. What the love there? Respect. Respecting myself includes, it's not exclusive to, but it includes me honoring my boundaries. If I say this is not something or a principle I hold, it's not a principle I hold. And I'm going to respect myself enough to hold on to my principles and don't allow people who show me some affection to lead me to violate my principles. So because you show me some affection, me disrespect myself by dishonoring my principles. Because you show me a little care, me disrespect myself by disrespecting my principles. No. So I'm looking at myself, do I respect myself? Or is it that I only respect myself to the point where this person is comfortable? Right? Am I taking responsibility for my actions, my behavior? And can I trust myself to protect myself? I'm going to talk a little bit about that piece here. Remember what trust is? Relying on another person so because you feel safe with them and because you have the confidence that they will not do anything to hurt, humiliate, or violate you. Can you trust yourself? Do you have the ability to rely on you and have confidence that you are not going to do something to hurt you, to violate you, to humiliate you? Can you trust yourself? Critical ingredient of love there. So I have to start with loving ourselves because that is how we learn how to love other people and what we will receive from others as love. If you don't love yourself based on these ingredients, you realize it's missing from the pot. Just decide what you need to work on. Because it's a journey, you know. It's a journey. So even if you don't get everything right for yourself, we could just decide what we're going to get right now before we start look around for who we're going to get and who we're there with. Let's get something right for ourselves now. Let's see if we can deal with ourselves first now. Can you trust yourself? Can you respect yourself? Can you take responsibility for yourself? Can you show yourself affection? Can you take care of yourself? Can you commit to yourself? Let us start there. And the better you get at doing that for yourself is the better you get at doing that for somebody else. It's how you demonstrate to them what kind of love is sufficient for you. And it's how you develop the courage to walk away from lovelessness. Because that's the other challenge. You realize there is no love, but you don't love yourself enough to walk away from lovelessness. And so you stay there. Make we do a little better, man. But it don't mean you're going to get up from in front of the phone and say, babes, me not think you love me, you know, because no, the first place I want you to go is inside. On these metrics, do I love myself? Where can I improve the way that I love myself? And you see, from that touch point, you don't even have to say, babes, me not think you love me, you know. You probably don't even have to say it with words. you come to a recognition and a realization, and you're able to better navigate that love situation to get the fullness of love that you want out of it and to give the love that you want out of it. And if you realize that the partner is not willing to meet you right there because they're not that committed, right? They're just not that committed to you. You can say, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Me that committed to myself though. And I know what I want for me. So me go and stay by your side and give myself what I need until I meet somebody who I can invite in to also give me what I need. I'll end there with two thoughts around being willing to give yourself what you need. I genuinely believe it comes from a think that you can love yourself. The caring for you, somebody else showing you affection, somebody showing you respect, somebody else, honoring your trust, that becomes secondary. That becomes secondary. That becomes the icing on the cake because you already bake the cake. You already bake the cake, And people who sit down stressing about the icing, it tells me that you don't even bake the cake yet. And that's why the icing is so compelling for you. That's why the icing have you obsessed. That's why the icing have you lose sleep. That's why the icing have you suffer. That's why the icing have you lower your standard. That's why the icing have you in all kind of pain and stress and distress. Because you don't start bake the cake yet. But you see, once you bake the cake, and that's the self-love, the icing takes its rightful place. It doesn't become the foundation of your joy anymore. Just something that you add on as a topping. Just something that you use to amplify the 3-tier cake where you have already. Because you've learned how to love yourself. You know, self know what I feel like. By itself. Self not for go out into the world, I run up and down and I throw yourself down at every altar trying to get it. Self knows how to give that to self. Self knows that, yeah, mommy never loved me and daddy never loved me, right? Mommy cared for me. Mommy never respect me. Daddy showed me affection, but daddy never cared for me. Daddy never took responsibility for his actions and his behavior in the relationship. Daddy never showed me respect. Daddy never showed that he wanted me to honor the trust between us. So while there was care, I recognized that there really wasn't any love. There was no commitment. Right? And that's okay. Because as an adult, I have an obligation to give myself what I did not get from the world. And that includes what we didn't get from our parents. So don't judge them. Don't hate them. They give us as much as they had available, tools that they had available to them. And I think it's important to honor that and to say thank you for that. People cannot give you what they do not have. And the fact that your parents were not able to give you love, like the full ingredients of love, just give them the benefit of the doubt that they really didn't know what it was. They give you what they had. They gave you what they had. They gave you what they got. And it's your job to learn more, to get more on this topic so you can give more, especially if you're raising children. So you pass on something better to the next generation. So I want to thank you guys for spending time with me. I think an hour well spent digging into what is love and the ingredients that make up love. Let's start though by assessing how well we are loving ourselves before we go around with the pen and the paper. Miss, come here. How much care you show me since week? Let's start doing that for ourselves first. How much care have you shown yourself? How much commitment have you shown to yourself? How much affection have you shown to yourself? How much respect have you shown to yourself? Where are you taking responsibility for yourself? How much trust for yourself? Essential. Jadine says, let me go in the corner and cry now. I hope it's a good cry, I hope it's a good cry. A cry that leads you closer to love for self. So you can choose more powerfully and deliberately the love that you accept in the world, which is really the journey, right? Just coming to a place where, as myself and with myself, I feel so full, I feel so loved, I feel so sure. Like me, I love me is the highest form of love. Everything else, as I say, is the icing. So thank you guys. I hope you have a great week. Happy Monday. I pray this was a gas up for you, even though somebody said it made them cry. If you haven't liked any of the videos on my page yet, take a moment, go find one, watch it, like it, comment, share it. Be sure to subscribe to the page and set notifications so you can know when we're doing new and exciting things. See you on another Monday for Good Gas Mondays. It has been my pleasure sharing with you. Take good care. Blessings.